Hey, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Dad Bod Transformation Podcast. I'm your resident nutritionist and podcast host, John Kobolewski. And my guest today is a 12-year veteran of the United States Navy, a former co-founder and CEO of Security Incorporated, which was acquired by GoDaddy in 2017. He has continued in a product management role since that time and currently serves as the Director of Program Management for GoDaddy's security products. He has a Bachelor's of Science and Management from the University of Phoenix. He just finished his MBA this year and is exploring his doctorate in an effort to become the real Dr. Dre. If that wasn't enough, he's a husband and father to 5, yep, you heard me right, 5 daughters. In his off time, he's either hanging with his girls, on the mat practicing and teaching Brazilian Jiu Jitsu as a brown belt, snowboarding in Big Bear or Mammoth, crawling over rocks in his crazy Jeep, or eating tacos and watching the Angels of the Chargers. As you can imagine, after all that introduction, he's a pretty busy guy, and I'm stoked that he was able to take the time to join us today. So please welcome Dre Armeda. Dre, how you doing, buddy?
I'm living the dream, John. Thanks for having me. How are things going, big guy?
Oh, man, things are going great. The podcast just keeps growing. We get more and more subscribers, and the group, as you know, is absolutely fantastic. So things couldn't be better on my end.
Outstanding. Yeah, the group now, it's been exciting to see it grow from the beginning days. We're, I think, over 15,000 strong now, and super excited to be seeing all that on the Dad Bod Transformation site, man. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. So being that you said that, well, you touched right on that point. The Dad Bod Transformation Group is all about the transformation. And I'm not too familiar with it, but tell us about your transformation story and how you got involved in health and fitness.
Holy cow. That's actually a long story if we date it back, not too long, but it dated back to about 7 years ago. I actually got out of the Navy now 12 years ago. And when I got out, I had some injuries, shoulder injuries that kind of led me into a place, I think mentally, where I was not coping well in terms of trying to increase my physical activity and taking care of myself. I was a heavy smoker, 2 packs a day. So the surgery kind of had me down, the cigarette smoking, just bad eating habits and stuff. And around 2013, my oldest daughter, who was 14 at the time, came to me, and we're big into MMA from a spectator sport perspective. And she says, "Hey, Dad, I want to start training MMA." And I go, "MMA? The heck are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, here's the deal. A jiu-jitsu school just opened up down the road, about 3 miles down the road, and your uncle, Tony, he had been practicing off and on for a number of years, battling through injuries. He just started over there at the new school. Why don't we go check that out? And if you really want to get into MMA, let's start from the ground up. Let's get your grappling and your close quarters defense up, and we'll see what's up. If it leads you into MMA, we'll go from there."
Sweet.
Yeah, so we get over there, man, and Orlando Alonso, the owner and professor over there, goes, "Look, we'll give her a free week. She can try it out, and if she likes it, we go from there." So she's over there. She tries it the first day and goes, "Dad, this is awesome. I want to do this, but I'm only going to do this if you do it."
Oh, yeah?
So I go, okay. And I had outside influences to kind of start as well. Again, mentioning Tony, he had been doing it. Our other business partner, Daniel, had been doing it for a number of years, and they'd always been kind of pushing me. And like I said, to me, it was a spectator sport, and I just didn't want to do it. But when Hallie goes, "Hey, Dad, I'll do it if you do it," I said, I'll give it a go. I'll try the free week. And that was in like April of 2013, I guess. And here we are, ending 2019, and now I'm one of the folks helping coach over there at the school, same school. I'm a brown belt, probably a couple years away from my black belt, and that was really, I think, that the main milestone that pushed me into really transforming the way that I thought about my health, physically and mentally. Now,
Right.
Stepping back a year preceding that, I had already quit smoking cigarettes, thankfully, back in 2012. Somewhere in the summer, in fact, I got on an airplane to Brazil for a forecasting meeting with my team, and didn't take any cigarettes, and haven't touched or even thought about a cigarette since. But the jiu-jitsu thing, man, it was a trip, man, because you think about the physicality that it takes in getting yourself healthy, whether that's running, whether that's lifting weights, whatever the case may be. Jiu-jitsu was always different because it had such a competitive, I think, feeling to it, and not so much competing against others, but against yourself. You're really, it's a real cerebral sport. At the same time, you're testing yourself physically through that mental manifestation. So I think that excited me a bit, and to be able to get better at that, and to learn transitions in these moves, and to get better than myself every day, really took a focus on my health, on my eating habits, on my hydration, my sleeping patterns, everything, right? And that culminated into a stronger jiu-jitsu game, which I inherently became addicted to. Which, if you read up on jiu-jitsu at all, it becomes this attachment to you, man. It really does save lives. And at the time, geez, I was almost 265 pounds, 5'11". And today, it's funny, I posted on Facebook earlier today. It's the lowest I've been since, I think, my last deployment in the Navy in 2000. It's almost 20 years. And I'm down like right around 195 today. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. And I'm scooting around and moving around better than a lot of these young guys that are coming in there. It's just this dedication to that now.
Right.
So it all started there, man.
Cool. Well, and it's kind of funny because the more I do these interviews for the podcast, and the more people that I talk to, as this becomes, I mean, fitness has been my life for a long time, as far as from a personal standpoint, but now it's actually my career. It's what I'm doing for a living. And the more I talk to people, the more I see a common thread amongst everybody who gets to the point where they start to really work on their health and fitness. They find these things, like in your case, it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In my case, it was, hanging and banging weights in the gym.
That's right.
For other people, it's powerlifting. For other people, it's bodybuilding. Some people are into cycling and running. But the common thread that I see throughout all of it is that as you see change, as you see improvements, as you see yourself being able to do more, it becomes completely and totally addicting. And if you're going to be addicted to anything, health and fitness is a good thing to be addicted to.
It's not the wrong side of the railroad tracks. That's for damn sure, man.
I'll guarantee it. I guarantee it. So now, obviously, your one daughter got you involved in all this, but with everything that you do now, what you do for a living, your career, and all that, how do you find time to do all this stuff with 5 girls?
That's a good question, and sometimes it's been easier than others. My oldest daughter now is going to be 21 in February. I have an 18-year-old who is now married to a fine Marine.
Awesome.
I've got one in high school, one in elementary school, and one in middle school, right? So it's become a bit different in terms of scheduling. The third oldest is going to be driving in a short period, so it kind of helps you maybe schedule and manage your time for other efforts a little bit differently. But it's a commitment, right? It's a commitment to focusing on priorities, and priorities are priorities. There's been times where jiu-jitsu has been lowered in priority because there's other more pressing important things, whether that's kids sports or academic events that they have, or family outings, which we enjoy spending time together. So it's a balance. It's just like finding your health, right? There is a fine balance in how you eat, how you sleep, how you exercise, when you rest. You have to find balance in the things that are important to you in life. And I think that and a great support system, a great understanding family has helped us all, I think, grow better. We know where our priorities lie. They know that my health and jiu-jitsu is important to me. So, maybe there's some sacrifices that we make there that, maybe prioritize over other things that we like. Like I mentioned, Chargers Angels game, spending time with that and things like that. Maybe those become a little bit less prioritized. Spending time with the family is important. So you all work together towards that common goal. You find what those priorities are, and you manage your time to make sure that you're meeting those priorities. That's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, now granted, I have a father of 5, 2 grandkids, and it can be difficult. I can say that all of my kids were not girls. That adds a whole nother aspect to things. I have often said that I probably would still have hair if three of my children weren't girls, but it's, because there are people that say that having girls is a lot more difficult than having boys and vice versa. So,
Oh man, I would argue the opposite. I think that I'm already bald, as well.
right.
And I have a little bit of beard envy. I'll have to show you some pictures afterwards because my beard is long as yours in the past, and I do miss it. But I think that if I had boys, I would have probably lost it a lot sooner because I know what a knucklehead I was.
Right.
And these girls have just been pretty badass, man.
Right.
Whether it's through their sports and academics, their way of working towards being a better person every day has made it quite pleasant to watch them grow and become young women.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And it is. It's an awesome thing. I mean, my oldest child is 33. My youngest just started college and he'll be 18 next month. And I mean, I'm at the point now where the kids are just about grown and off doing their own thing, but I still sit back on a regular basis and think about all of the benefits that they actually gave to me by you know pushing me to be a better person. I remember when I was first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, one of the things that struck me the hardest was being in that hospital bed and having my kids standing over me crying. you know the last thing I ever wanted to do was hurt my kids. So I mean, that was like a severe motivator to get me moving and work towards my fitness goals. So I completely understand what you're saying.
Health
So
has got to be a huge consideration there for sure.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So now for those of us that don't know much about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, what describe some of the health benefits of it, and how would people get involved with it on kind of a ground floor level if somebody's never done anything like that?
I love that. It's a perfect segue because it is a ground game martial art, meaning it's a
Hmm.
grappling submission grappling sport.
Right.
There's two variations of it. One is with the gi or a kimono, as the traditionalists would know it. That's how it originated, as it kind of expanded from the Gracie family century or decades ago from judo.
Okay.
And the other variation is no gi, or as I used to call it, which was kind of the predecessor to MMA, Vale Tudo, which was jujitsu or ground game submission grappling with striking, and that's
Okay.
what kind of manifested into MMA and the UFC as you know it today.
Right.
But at its grassroots, at its foundation, its meaning is the gentle art. It is an interesting way for you to defend yourself in a practical way. Meaning, if you take any of the other martial arts out there, and you go and let's say hypothetically you get jumped at a store or bar or something, you will be able to intelligently defend yourself as this fight goes to the ground, which we know that 85 to 90% of fights all end up on the ground. Now,
Sure.
if
Hmm.
we think about the competitive landscape and everything that's all existent as well. But its grassroots are really revolving around a smaller person being able to defend themselves in a way that helps them maybe not get killed, not get
Right.
hurt,
Right.
against a larger opponent. So
Right.
it's great for kids. It's great for elderly folks. It's great for women, for men alike. It is a very powerful martial art. Now,
Right.
the premise of it is to be able to manipulate joints and to put people into, let's say, choke submissions, again, to defend themselves. Now, the sport component, getting into that, like I competed at Worlds this year. I went 1-1. I didn't do great, but I did do that. And there's, I mean, thousands of competitors today in that world. So if that's something that you fancy as you get kind of acclimated to the sport a bit, you can compete at all levels, from white belt all the way through black belt at
Oh, well,
any.
that's cool.
Yeah. So, for example, I'm in what's called Masters 3. I'm in my 40s. So they group you by age, they group you by belt. I'm a brown belt, and then by weights. So I'd be right now, I was in the heavyweight class. I'm dropping now into medium heavy.
Right.
Um, but ultimately, I would look at it as a self-defense art, and that's really open to anybody. Again, the whole premise of it when it was created was the little guy to be able to defend himself, right? And
Right.
there's a lot of history behind that. If you start to research and read a bit, it's pretty neat.
Indeed, yeah, and I think somewhere, and this is fresh on my head because my wife just transitioned from active duty Army to the Guard, and one of the things that she did when she was active duty was she was the expert instructor in combatives, and if I remember correctly, I remember hearing that a lot of the techniques that they used in combatives were based in the foundations of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yep. Yeah, most definitely. The Army and Marines have a great program to teach the foundations of the art, and it's a great. I think it's a great entrance. In fact, we get a lot of active duty and prior military that have been through those programs at the school. Carlson Gracie Menifee, and they've got a good solid foundation getting into the sport as a white belt and then transitioning into blue belt. It's a fabulous way again to intelligently defend yourself. And it's been around since the 1920s. The Gracie family had the opportunity to kind of help grow it from Master Maida, and from there the growth was just brilliant. Carlos Gracie and that whole family really transcend jujitsu, and even today they're just such a big, powerful influence on the sport, on the martial art. It's really neat. The exciting thing is that these days there's academies all over the place.
Oh yeah,
And I would suggest if anybody's interested in trying it, at first maybe look at more a traditional school versus, let's say, an MMA school that might have some jujitsu attached to it, and where you have an instructor that might be teaching some techniques on that, and then taekwondo, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to get immersed in the actual sport and really learn it from a traditional standpoint and understand gi and no gi components, whether that's the self-defense side of the house and then moving into sport, look for a traditional team. Some, whether it's a Carlson Gracie school, or you've got Gracie Humaita, Gracie Baja. There's a various very, very strong, good teams with great professors and great curriculum to help anybody of any age kind of get through their own journey. It's pretty neat. And look, we haven't even talked about the health benefit to it, right?
right.
It's this cardio kind of, and I'm not technically speaking, I'm not very strong in terms of being able to explain to you that the actual health, technicalities behind it, but the cardio that you get behind it is crazy. You go and you spar, let's say, for example, 5 minutes straight, and you've got these movements, these body movements that are continual, and it's this flow. So your heart rate is up. You've got constant movement. It reminds me a lot of some of the kind of the hit training that I've done in the past in the gym, right?
Right.
And man, I'll tell you what, like your heart rate is up. The movement in terms of strength, it's practical use. You're not gaining muscle, but you're kind of leaning out and getting strong. Your grips and forearms and shoulders get strong. Your hip dexterity changes.
Yeah.
And holy cow, man, if you're eating half decent and you're consistently on the mat, let's say 3-4 days a week, you're going to dump weight like something fierce. There's not many folks, and again, of all ages, that have come into the school that over, let's say, a 3-4 month period, you see like a visual change in their body composition, in their strength, in their agility, their flexibility. It just really influences all of that if you're consistently on the mat.
Yeah.
Super rad. I mean, I'm more flexible than my kids, and one of them's like a state gymnast. It's ridiculous how a 42-year-old man can bend it and move around. It's pretty awesome.
Right, right. Yeah, I actually I did a little bit of research because I had some issues myself. I spent a lot of years just lifting weights and trying to add muscle mass because I learned at, quite early on in my journey trying to beat type 2 diabetes that the more lean muscle mass I had, the more efficient my body would be at burning fat and burning the fuel that I put in it. So I focused all of my attention on cardio and lifting weights, and I neglected my joints. I neglected stretching, and I've paid the price for it over the years. I mean, I just recently had a meniscus tear in my left knee that was actually caused by my hamstrings being so tight from from the development that I've got there that it was everything was pulling my kneecap backwards and it was shredding my cartilage. So, and I wound up having to have that surgically repaired. And then my physical therapist was like, "Well, you really need to start stretching that stuff out on a regular basis and things like that." So I actually was doing some research on different things that were good for improving joint health and stretching, and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was one of them that come up. And it actually surprised me because you even got people like professional wrestlers that do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu as a way to stay flexible and to keep their joints in shape because of all the stuff that they do. So it obviously has quite a few health benefits to say the least.
Yeah, most definitely. There's not, and there is injuries. There are injuries, just like anything else, right? Things do happen. It is a contact sport. It is a
Hmm.
combat sport. So there is opportunity for injury there.
Sure.
And that decreases over time as your technique gets better, as your body movement and your overall health within the sport advances. But there are there is a chance of injury as well. But the health benefits I think overall outweigh that, and again, you kind of see a decreased risk of those injuries as you progress. It becomes a win-win, man.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Going back and touching on something that I spoke about in your introduction. You're exploring at this point in time your doctorate. What are you going for your doctorate in?
And that's kind of where I'm torn right now, right? So I'm doing some fellowships and some different studies around program and project management today.
Okay.
I think move on beyond my MBA.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's natural for me to kind of lean in on the business side of the house, which has been my formal academic life, as well as my implementation in career.
Right.
Now, that all stems from a technical background.
Okay.
In the military and beyond, I was technically trained in different aspects of IT and security, whether that was physical security, information security, etc.
Right.
So that could influence kind of the direction there. When you start thinking about a doctorate, at least in my capacity, it'd be a PhD. It would
Right.
be around researching and kind of solving big world problems.
Mm,
And I think that the overall involvement would be somewhere on the business side, somewhere on the technology side. Those would be
gotcha.
the two things that I'd be most attached to.
Yeah, I tell most people, and like I say, my son just started college, and actually he's uh, this year he's studying IT. He wants to get into not only information technologies, but a lot of different aspects of computer. I mean, he's had a YouTube channel since he was 13 years old. He wants to do everything from software development to be able to possibly develop games, things of that nature. And if there's one thing it's for sure, technology is not going anywhere. So it's definitely a good field to get into, regardless of whether you're in a position like you where you're looking to do in your doctorate or just starting out.
I think a good foundational step for anybody looking into getting into technology, because things have changed over time. Years ago, let's say 25, 30 years ago, when I was really starting to cut my teeth and learn technology, it was really hardware driven, whether that was building computers or putting networks together, internetworking computer networks to really create the fabric of how people would connect and network and share, communicate, and that's large in part become a commodity today because of
Right.
the cloud, and certainly there's infrastructure and that type of architecture that needs to be created and advanced. But
Hmm.
I think that's become a very slim um, opportunity for the larger base that was really attacking that as their primary direction into getting into IT in the early days.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I think it really revolves around software and the advancement of our capabilities to interact and create strong customer experiences and value around things and problems that we're having that need solving in a more intuitive way. So my encouragement to any new technologist or anybody looking to understand how they can get their foot in the doors, start to think about how you can create from a software perspective, because today the underlying and underpinning infrastructure and technology behind creating and advancing opportunities for people is already there. So let's
Right.
really look at the technology side of the house from a software perspective. So if he's looking to get into development, I would say that that's the right course of action. Not only to even maybe that become the catalyst to him to get into hardware and infrastructure at one point, but
Right.
also game development and all the things that are happening there. The software side of the house is where folks should be focusing predominantly development and security.
Gotcha. I hear you, man. I mean, there are so many things out there that are just becoming more and more prevalent. That's why when y- I decided that I was done working harder on a physical level and it's time to start working smarter, and I got into, going into business as a nutritionist and a trainer. Um, you know, I've said this before. I told somebody else one time that I heard a quote on a YouTube show that I was watching, and the guy said, "Find the world's biggest problem, and you'll find the world's biggest opportunity to help people." And the obesity epidemic, the type 2 diabetes epidemic, is, those two things alone are absolutely running rampant. They expect that, like, I think the number was like 40% of the world's population will either be obese, have type 2 diabetes, or both by the year 2025. To
Yeah,
me,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
to me, it's like that was a call to action. I came across the Dad Bod Transformation Group and started interacting with some of the guys there, and have gotten inspired by their stories and how they've been able to overcome. I met the resident coaches in the group, and those guys are just phenomenal. I plan on doing a lot of great things with them, whether it's designing programs for the members. We got a lot of ideas that are spinning around the table right now that we're going to implement here very shortly, that are going to benefit all of the members of the group on a grand scale. So I'm really excited about it all.
So it's a heck of a team there, and I think Emil and kind of his this is his brainchild, right? And putting this together. I was one of the originating members, and to just see this thing grow, man, and the amount of kind of two things. The amount of positive energy that's in that group and people trying to help each other,
Mm-hmm.
and the maybe the combatants of any negativity that comes into that group. So we're really staying true and full to the um, uh, the way that this was originated and the value that was supposed to be provided by this group.
Yeah, right.
And you get folks that just a little bit of ego and a little bit of attitude in there at
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and it's so cool to see the overarching group go, wait a second, that's not the energy we need here. We need to be picking each other up. There's an opportunity for us as folks that need this transformation, that
Exactly.
need to get better, and
Yep.
to get better every day, to stick together and keep all that negative energy out. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a testament to Mill and just the sheer attitude that he's created in that group. It's just awesome to be a part of.
Absolutely. Yeah, Matt and I actually touched on that when we did our podcast. It's it's so funny because it's like somebody will post a negative comment in there, and just as fast as the moderators or us coaches can get to it, the other members of the group are already like, nobody, you need to slow your roll. We don't bring that kind of negativity into the group. If that's how you want to be, go elsewhere. And that's amazing because I so often refer to people in the group as, like I'll post a comment on somebody's post or whatever, and I'm like, hey brother, just hang in there or whatever. I refer to everybody as brothers, but I do that for a reason. It is out of almost anything that I've ever been a part of, this feels like a brotherhood. I mean, everybody is there for everybody. And just like anything else, just like any other family, you're going to have your good eggs and bad eggs. You're going to have people that come into your atmosphere that are either bringing negativity, or they're just there to try to sell you something, or whatever the case may be. You're going to have it. We got a group with 16,000 members, but as long as we stay true to our goals, which I don't see ever becoming an issue, this group is going to do nothing but shoot straight through the atmosphere.
And beyond the energy, right? Like a lot of good data and a lot of good information and
Yes.
resources that help. Like one of my big things for my personal journey is like, all right, I've cut weight, my weight's down, but I've got this trouble area around, man, that little spare tire us old timers get
Yes.
if we're complacent for too long, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've got the top top two, pieces of my six pack, but the rest are not there. Like, how do I get through that? And man, you ask those questions and you're just getting a myriad of resources there with people with like real life experience kind of helping you
Yes. Yep.
understand and engage and learn so
Mhm.
that you can go, and if you want to take the step to actually apply and give it a go, you can. So the resourcing there is just brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, and the I when became a member, I only became a member of the group about 3 months ago, and when Emil decided to put together this group of resident coaches, I was honored for him to ask me to be the nutritionist of the group. But I immediately saw the potential because of all the interaction in the group. I immediately saw the potential to create other resources, external resources outside of the group that would give everybody a voice, which is why when I first pitched the idea of doing a podcast to Emil, it was based around working with the coaches and rotating them in and out as guests and us discussing different things. And we still plan on doing all that. We've done the initial ones with everybody except Emil, but we're going to continue to rotate the coaches in and out so we as the professionals can continue to provide quality content for all of the members and to give you guys information. But I also found the opportunity to reach out to members like yourself, like Eric Field, which his podcast actually drops on YouTube today. I want to talk to you members too, because not only do we as professionals have input that's valuable, you guys do too. Everybody comes from their own different walk of life. Everybody's walked a different journey, and there's always something to be learned from every journey. That's how I
Oh,
look at it.
look at the actual intake, food, nutrition, and you're an expert in this area. I certainly am
Hmm.
not, but I've taken the tact, and I know a program that works really well for me. I've decided to eat like a caveman, and damn it, it has helped me over the last 7 years in an
Right,
amazing way. Along with my physical activity on the mat, being consistent there. I'm very heavy paleo, right? So eating lean
right.
meat, eating a lot of veggies, right?
Hmm.
Fruit, making sure that I'm getting nuts and grains, but staying very natural in that capacity has helped me. I clean myself up, man. It just it's a powerful thing to kind of learn and be a part of and constructively follow. Like there's plenty of other programs. That might not be the program for you or others, but a lot of people are
Hmm.
are looking at keto and various other types of maybe caloric deficit type programs.
Right.
But there's so many resources in that group talking about all these different opportunities. Everybody's different, right? I think it all comes down to what works for your body, your life, and as long as you're able to stay disciplined and consistent in a healthy capacity, right? We don't want to be
Right.
doing things that they're going to hurt us long term, so that we can see short term value, but we have a means to kind of talk about that stuff constructively and learn from each other.
Yeah, yeah, and that is one of the biggest keys and that you just touched on is being able to do all this stuff in a healthy way and having it be constructive. I'm actually working with one client now, who actually it's kind of a funny story because I know him through he works with my daughter with my second oldest daughter, and he reached out to me through her because he was getting involved in starting a clothing line for fitness for guys that go to the gym and whatnot. And he's an aspiring bodybuilder. Um, so him and I have been friends all for a year or two now, and I follow him on all the social media and whatnot. And I saw a post on Instagram one day, and he talked about that he was beginning his cut for the OCB Mountain State Classic, which I also actually just became affiliated with through him. I'm now their official nutritionist. But he put in this post that he was working out like he was lifting weights 4 days a week. He was doing an hour and a half of cardio every day, and he was only taking in 1,500 calories. Now, keep in mind, this guy is like 5'10, 5'11 maybe, and 300 pounds. And he's worked real hard over the last couple of years to put on a fair amount of muscle. And I saw that he was only eating like 1,500 calories. And the first thought was every ounce of weight that he loses, you can pretty much split it in half and he's going to be losing as much muscle as he is
That's
fat.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's an ox of a man there. So that whole, to keep that same kind of structure, that's got to be rough at that calorie count.
Right. And the funny thing was when he made that post, he's like, yeah, he says, this is my second week and I've already lost 3 pounds. Well, I got together with him and put together a nutrition program for him, and he started on that. And he's been on it like 5 weeks now, and he's down almost 20 pounds. And not only is he down 20 pounds, he's down 20 pounds of unwanted weight because you can just look at it. The scale doesn't mean anything to me. I tell people all the time, I've seen the time I've gone to bed at one weight and woke up 4 pounds heavier.
Oh, I've seen both ways. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't pay much attention to the scale, but I have him send me pictures all the time. And just like and matter of fact, I posted his pictures in the Dad Bod group because I was like super, super proud of him. And you could just see how much his face had leaned out and his upper body was starting to lean out and everything in just 5 weeks. And I took him from eating 1,500 calories a day to eating almost 3,000 a day.
See, and that's a bittersweet situation for me, right? So like I don't necessarily give two hoots about the actual weight in terms of what the scale says. And I have a caveat to that. I prefer to really feel comfortable in the clothes that I'm having to purchase. That's a lot smaller than the clothes that I had to purchase when I started this whole journey. However, as a jiu-jitsu practitioner that's registered with IBJJF and likes to compete on occasion, not as often as I used to, weight is absolute important factor in the way that I prepare myself, because there's weight classes and limitations limits that I have to reach,
right?
Or else I get disqualified and I can't compete, right? So, for example, I'm dropping right now in middle heavy. I'm walking around at 195 right now. The top of the weight class is 195, so I need to drop another 4 or 5 pounds. I want to get down 2 more divisions. So to do that, I have to think about the whole pound versus weight versus gain versus loss.
Oh yeah,
and really think about the scale. So, which we should probably talk, because maybe you can help me adjust that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. See, and it's funny that you mentioned that because are you familiar with Tim Ferriss at all?
Oh, most definitely.
Oh yeah. Did you ever hear the story about how he became the Chinese national champion in kickboxing?
I think we should hear it.
Oh my goodness. Well, what he did was he got this brilliant idea that he was going to compete in this kickboxing competition. He had absolutely no experience whatsoever. And I think he had like 4 or 5 weeks to prepare. Okay. But what he did, because this guy is like the king of biohacks, he not just biohacks, he hacks everything. He hacks finance. He hacks your career. I mean, he wrote the book, The 4-Hour Work Week, which I am a huge fan of. I've read time and time again. But anyway, back to the story. So what he did in the last week before the competition was he used bodybuilding techniques that they use to dry themselves out to get rid of all their water weight and drop down very, very low in the amount of water that they carry. So he dehydrated himself by use of a doctor, mind you. This was all done under a doctor's supervision. He went in for the weigh-in, weighed in at one weight. The competition was 2 days after that, and he super hydrated himself back up to his normal weight. So he was competing in one weight class, but he was actually heavy enough to be 3 weight classes higher. Then he found a loophole in the rules that said if the person that he was competing against fell off the platform 3 times, that they lost the match by default. Well, of course, he's 3 weight classes higher than these people, so he literally won every match by knocking people off the platform. Now, as you can imagine, the judges were probably the most pissed off Chinese people you'd ever see in your life. But the fact of the matter was, it was in the rules and there was nothing you could do about it. So he actually became the national champion for China in kickboxing in that year just by depleting his water and then rehydrating and finding a loophole.
So, master of situational adaptation, this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was funny that you touched on that, because you're right. If you're a bodybuilder, when it comes time for you to compete, there are certain dietary protocols that you have to do.
Most certainly.
You have to get rid of your water weight. You have to do this. You have to do that. It's all about nutrient timing and
Sure.
carb cycling and all these things. And you're in the same position, you know.
I try to stay away from that side of the house though, right? And like you get the younger, more like I'd say world class jiu-jitsu athletes, shoot, MMA, wrestling for that matter. And they certainly fit that profile more closely than I do. I like to go, all right, if I'm going to compete at this weight class, I'm going to take the next 3-4 months to get down there and be at a walking weight where being under the upper threshold is, upper threshold is not a problem. I can make weight because I'm already walking at that level. I've been into situations where I'm cutting and going through those protocols very close to a competition to lose 10, 15, 20 pounds. Right. Let me tell you, my performance is sacrificed significantly.
Oh yeah.
Because now that the way that we, especially with IBJJF, you're weighing in 10 minutes before your first match.
Oh, yeah.
So dehydration, all of that comes into play, and it really depends on the federation or the promoter for the fights and the tournament that you're in, certainly. But I prefer not to deal with them, man. I want to go in and train hard at the weight that is going to be where I'm going to be competing at, so that I don't run into any of those problems. Right. And that becomes more of a sustainable life approach. Where now I'm in a healthier state. I don't have to worry about, seeing unforeseen gains in weight and all of that. I'm able to manage that in a sustainable way. That's been my program this year, man. I've dropped a good, 35 pounds to get down to where I'm at today this year, and sustaining it very easily.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is key. And it doesn't matter. Like I say, it doesn't matter whether you're doing some kind of competition or you're just the average dad out there that's trying to lose, 20, 30 pounds of body fat and get healthier for, to be around for his wife and kids. Whatever you're doing, make sure that you're doing it in a way that it's sustainable. Don't do something that's drastic just so you can see a number on a scale one time, but you can't sustain it. And the next thing you know, you've lost all the progress you made and probably gained a little more weight in the process.
Well, you mentally break down there, right? And it might put you in a place where you're just not even motivated to continue, right? So I think there's mental and emotional, I think, impacts of approaching, these fad diets and fad protocols that might influence you short term, but not give you the long term, outcome that you're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was actually I read a post this morning in the group, and a gentleman was talking about he was just completely and totally fed up over the course of the last 10 years. He'd been on every diet imaginable. He'd worked with this trainer and that trainer and this trainer and that trainer, and he never saw any success. All he did was keep gaining weight, and all these guys kept doing was taking his money.
I call hooey on that in some instances. So that's likely that there's a lack of self-understanding or even self-discipline to continue forward. Now, I'm not going to say the guy hasn't had bad experiences, because we all have. I certainly have.
Right.
But if you're not putting yourself in the right frame of mind to want to continue forward in a positive way, in a sustainable way, I don't care how much help you get from the outside and how much money you spend, you're not going to progress like you want to progress.
Right.
So
exactly.
You've got to be in a mentally prepared to make decisions that are going to benefit you long term. Like you can't just, oh man, I did great today, and then go eat 2 cheeseburgers tomorrow. Like it's not going to fly, man. Like, got it. We all have our days, but like it's a matter of consistency and your commitment to doing that. If you don't put in the time, I don't care who you are, it's not going to work out to your advantage. You got to have activity. You've got to eat clean, right? And you got to get rest. If you're not doing those 3 things deliberately with a powerful trained locomotive movement forward to making sure you're progressing, like you're not putting yourself in a position to succeed.
Yeah, exactly. And in essence, that's kind of what I told him. I wrote a nice, fairly long post, and I just told him, the fact of the matter is that you've got underlying conditions, you've got limiting factors that are causing this issue. It isn't just about who you've been around or what you have done. It's about what you haven't done. It's about what you haven't addressed within yourself, within your environment, or whatever the case may be. And, as always, just like I do with anybody in the group, I was like, I'm here. I'm here. I'm a resident coach. I'm here for a reason. If you need me, reach out and I'll be glad to help you.
You build a mindset to succeed, and you will put yourself in a better position to see that outcome.
Indeed.
So really, it starts with you. Oftentimes when we fail, we like
Mhm.
to push blame. And I don't know who this guy is, a gal, whatever, that had this
Mhm.
problem, and their exact situation. But more often than not, it starts at the individual, really just buckling down and making the conscious decision to actually progress towards a successful state.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you my final question, which I ask everybody that I have on the show. If you could affect one thing about health and fitness on a global level, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's the way that we look at poor processed food, man. The dynamic of profitability behind things that are bad for us is in a state that will kill us before we as nations with conflict will kill each other. We need to be in a better state of education and awareness about the things that we consume. But most of it really just sugary processed crap, and making better decisions for each other around what we're consuming. So if we can all band together, if I was in a place to make a solid impact on the way that people made decisions around their food and moved away from, putting money in the pockets of those that are trying to kill us with this processed crap, that would certainly be the place I would start to focus my energy.
Absolutely. And that's awesome. As a nutritionist, I mean, that is near and dear to my heart. You have coaches, the coaches, the other coaches in the group, like Chris and Matt. Those guys, Chris comes from a bodybuilding background. Matt's obviously an expert in biomechanics, and comes from a strength and conditioning background. But for me, I have always believed, not only throughout my own journey, but as I studied to become a nutritionist, and I'm also just about done with my studies to be a certified trainer as well. Um, Nutrition is 80% of it. Training in the gym, what you do in the gym, that's a good 10% of it. You need to go in the gym, and whether it's doing jujitsu or something, you need to put metabolic stresses on your body, whether it's tearing down muscle tissue from resistance training, um, you know, adding the extra stressors from doing cardio, whatever the case may be. You need to apply that stress, that metabolic stress. You need to make sure you have the proper nutrients, and you have to recover. You have to sleep. You have to rest. If you do those three things, those are all the pieces of the puzzle. You're going to be successful. It's just that simple. And what you said about that, I'm with you. If I could drill it in everybody's head across the world that you are what you eat. That's an old saying, but it's extremely true. If I could get that into everybody's head around the world, I could reach my goal. I could achieve my mission of eradicating type 2 diabetes across the world.
I love it.
Because between obesity and type 2, they're killing more people than heart disease, cancer, and car crashes combined, you know?
Yeah, if
And
a guy like me it has seen this tried and true can tell you with no formal experience in nutrition or any of the stuff that we try to help people in the group, short of wanting to feel better, seeing my body transform into something healthier, and I certainly can say that maybe jujitsu I'm an expert at, but that's about it. If I'm seeing this and saying this, like, look, there's a reason behind it. It helps. It works. Um,
Mhm.
Take care of yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Dre. Well, I sure am glad that you were able to take some time out of your busy schedule to get together with me. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It was a lot of great information. Let's definitely get together soon, and hopefully we can have some video next time around, and we'll talk about some more stuff.
I love it, man. I'm gonna have to reach out and get a little help from you to get that belly fat
Hey,
gone, man.
you know how to get a hold of me, brother. You know how to get a hold of me. All right, man. Well, I'm going to let you go. You have a good day, and we'll catch you next time around.
Thanks for having me, John.